Hello, everyone, and welcome to Completely Machinima, the podcast about machinima and machinima-related topics. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Phil Rice, and with me is Ricky Grove, Damien Valentine, and Tracy Harwood.
I see you there.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk about insert film name here. And introducing that film is going to be insert podcaster's name here. Go ahead, insert name. Tracy, what you got for us?
Okay.
That was our generic intro. We could use that on all of them, right?
Of course.
You got to do an outro like that as well now.
I will.
Okay, so I've got I really enjoyed it. It's called The Calanthek, and it's by Aaron Sims Creative, and it was released on YouTube on the 4th of November, 2021, and posted on the Unreal Engine channel as an exemplar of Unreal Engine 5, whilst it was actually still in early access. So it's using Metahuman creator and the alien character in it, if I can pronounce this correctly, Tuthesan. Tuthesan has since become a free downloadable asset for Unreal Engine 5. Now, it was actually made as part of Short Nightmares Film Festival, which took place inside Fortnite Creative Mode, I think, as part of their 2021 Halloween period, Fortnightmares, and was originally shown during that period between 28th of October and 1st of November last year. Now, it's an 8-minute long alien planet story with shades of that amazing film we reviewed a few months ago, if you remember, which was made in Star Citizen by the Adrift team, for me. It has a female lead character astronaut who, excuse me, she's assigned one last job before heading home and presumably retiring. Now, the explorer lands on this mysterious planet where a spaceship has crashed, having hit a drone, and she's going to try and investigate what's happened on this planet to this drone and potentially try and repair it. Now, in the process, she gets spooked and tries to leave the planet, and then there's this really wonderful twist in the story. It's super creepy and incredibly well done. A lot of the story is driven by some fabulous voice acting and really excellent sound design and music, which is really what drives the suspense, I think.
Yeah.
The detail in the assets and the scenes is really interesting. And I'd say there's what I would call a gratuitous bug in there too, which seems to be a bit of a go-to for most of the Unreal Engine 5 creators. I don't know if you remember, but we also mentioned one in the Cloud Racer film last month. There's a fabulously detailed hostile creature in this with some very interesting movement design. And of course, that's the whole point of the film, because it's being done by this sort of infamous creature creator, Aaron Sims. And it reminded me a little bit of the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek monster, which actually wasn't created by Aaron Sims. It was created by Neville Page, by the way. Although I understand it's probably originally derived from a mutated giant squid from the Godzilla radiation stable. Anyway, Sims Creative is, of course, a special effects giant and has created some of the most memorable creature characters we've seen in big budget films. So it's worth hearing about his creative process in Unreal Engine 5. And you can catch up on that with a really nice little interview that he's done with Alan Mackay on his podcast, which we'll put a link in to as well. So that's all I've got to say on it. I don't know what you guys thought of it. I really enjoyed it, but maybe you didn't.
This is a film I was going to pick, and then I saw you already had.
Okay.
I thought it was a really stunning film, and you can, as you're watching it, because you don't really see the main character out of her spacesuit, all you got is that her eyes are visible, and the rest of it, she's got a mask on and the helmet. She stays like that throughout the entire film. You kind of forget that you're watching an animated film, because that could so easily be a real person in a real suit in a real environment. And that's a testament to the rendering capabilities of Unreal, is because you forget that it looks real, and all the detail on the spaceship, in the landscape, on the monster, and everything about it is just absolutely stunning. That's one of the reasons I was going to choose it. But
I'm glad I got there first.
I can see why it's been used by Unreal to show off the capabilities of what the engine can do. And I just was really amazed by it, and it's one of my favorite films that we've seen this month. So
that's great. That's great.
There was some particular detail work that really impressed me early on in the short. She's still in the spaceship, and it's showing kind of a side view as she's looking at all these different controls and readouts on her craft, right, on the cockpit, and the eye movement.
Oh yes,
looking between different things. It was just so beautifully done. I mean, like so believable. And just I find myself kind of stepping out for a second watching that and going, how do they do that? You know, is there face capture that can get that? I mean, because I've heard different scientists talk about the marvel of our eyes and the way that they focus, and the fact that we as a human being, that I can be standing across the room from someone and I can tell what they're looking at. And basically they talked about that in terms of what incredible calculation that is. You know, there's a geometry to that, right? And that we are so precise. If someone's looking at your head instead of looking at your eyes, you can tell. Or if someone's looking in a particular direction, you can tell just from the eye movement. And the fact that we can interpret that and make decisions, if you will, at a sensory level based on that, just what a marvelous piece of equipment this is, right? And it's incredible to see a real-time engine capture that precision that really you only ever see in a real human face. So I was ensnared by this from the get-go once I saw that, because that's exquisite work. And the film that you mentioned from the Adrift film, Tracy, had similar strengths. This was I think to the next level. And to some degree Cloud Racer. Even though there were some problems with some of the face animations, particularly in the jaw area, but upper face, I mean, holy cow, some of those expressions that the younger racer would make when talking to his dad, and eye rolls and things like that. It's just it's amazing, the detail there. I like the story overall. I wish it had caught me a little more by surprise, but I kind of was able to see it coming a little earlier than I wanted to. It's not a fault in the story, I don't think. The creature felt a little familiar. Maybe disappointingly familiar. Like I can't tell you where I've seen it before, but I had this overwhelming sense of, I've seen something like that before. But the storycraft was nice. I think my one criticism, if it's even my place to give it, you know, given that who Aaron Sims is I would have liked to see a version of this film that had about 1/3 the amount of spoken dialogue as this did. I felt like that, for me, it suffered a little bit, the fact that the character was constantly articulating verbally every thought she was having.
Yeah, good point.
And it kind of falls into that show don't tell thing that I feel like, man, you got all these tools, you got this exquisite control over animations and stuff, that do you really need her to tell me, oh gee, what should I do next? You know, it's I don't know. It's nitpicky, I guess, but I think that the sense of suspense and maybe terror or horror to some degree could have been elevated even more if there wasn't quite so much soliloquy.
Mm.
Very,
That-
very good point.
that's
Good
just
point.
what I think, because I think the overall story, which, damn it, we can't even really talk about without giving away.
Yeah.
But it's neat. It's a neat little sci-fi thing. It's not wholly original, the concept of it, but it's well executed. It was enjoyable. But yeah, that's what I kind of felt like was jarring me out of it. Is I'm not sexist at all, but I just like, lady, shut up. Shut up and be terrified, please. So that was my only beef with it. But it's, yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot to admire in this work for sure.
You've all made the points that I would have made as well. I liked it. I was drawn into the story. I too was caught up by the facial animations and just the superiority of the Unreal rendering. We've watched a lot of Unity films. We've watched a lot of other machinima shot and different things. And Unreal by far is the highest and best rendering and animation capability. No wonder so many virtual productions are using it, because it is so good. And it's free, folks. It's free. You can just jump right in and get it. There's a learning curve, but like anything, there's going to be a learning curve. So I was very appreciative of that. I came away smiling and enjoying the thing because it was somewhat familiar. But I do have a couple things that troubled me. One is that it seemed very traditional. Other than switching a woman for a male character, which I'm glad, because it didn't turn out to be a woman in peril situation,
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple things that troubled me. One is she kept talking about retiring, and yet she looked to be no more than 25.
Yeah.
It didn't make much sense to me. To me, it would be a better choice to have an older person in that role. And the other thing is that why in the world did she go into that cave in the first place? You know what I mean? She only has a flashlight. She obviously knows that this is a world that could have some danger elements. She doesn't have her gun out first. She just walks blindly into the whole thing. And of course, she gets trapped. And that was really troubling, because I kept thinking, in addition to talking so much, shut up, lady, and be smarter. Be smarter.
That's a good point, because if she were older and experienced, she would know not to go in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She would have.
If she's a rookie, why is she retiring? No, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
She would have used some sort of scanning technology to scan the interior of the cave to see whether there were any organic forms in there that might threaten her, or send a drone in or something like that. But anyway, that wasn't what they chose to do. They chose to make her very simple in that, and that's the traditional quality. I wish that it had been a little more poetic, a little more risky in the way they did their shots. We've seen some individual machinima films that had a similar nostalgic appeal for a typical sci-fi situation, that were very creative in the way they moved the camera. There was very little camera movement in this, by the way. It was just medium shot, close up, wide shot, medium shot, close up, wide shot. Now, I understand that film language is what people like and what they understand, and it's simple, and it made the story appealing. But it troubled me that it seemed to be a lack of imaginative effort on their part, because Unreal can certainly do some amazing things with it. Mm-hmm. And then the sort of piece de resistance was, as you pointed out, Phil, the sort of, oh yeah, there's a monster. They just didn't make it, didn't share that shock that you should get from it. The jumping cat syndrome, where you turn the corner and this thing leaps at you. And you knew she was going to escape it. So there was no real suspense in any of that. So those were the things that bothered me about it. But, those are things that only by taking time to look at it closely and watching it a couple times that I get. My overall experience was positive. I enjoyed watching it the first time. I didn't think about those things the first time, except for the monster. It was only on subsequent viewings, but I liked it. And I want to see more by that company and the director.
Great. Do you think, Ricky, that the lack of let's say, innovative approach with the camera. Was this creator inhibited by his own professional experience in that regard?
Well, that's a really good point.
You get taught this is the way it's done, and there are things that are possible in Unreal, like you said, that aren't necessarily possible with real world cameras. I don't know. When you said that, it made me think. I wonder if it's one of those things where sometimes machinima creators are willing to be a little more daring. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but they're willing to experiment more there because they, for lack of a better phrase, they don't know any better. And maybe that helps sometimes, The
problem in a commercial situation is that they don't have time to fail on shots. They have to get the shots right. And so they're much more conservative on the shots that they chose.
Right.
On sets that I've been on, the director will often read the paper in between while they're setting up the lighting, and we'll do the traditional close-up mid-shot, maybe a push-in and a wide shot, and that's it, because they know that's what works. Those are the basics of storytelling, and they have to get the job done in 5 days or 6 days. However, there are individuals that I've worked with who they don't give a damn about that, and they've thought it all through very carefully, and they have a crew that understands that's how they work. And so they reduce the risk of not being able to get a shot by being able to the director to have discussed it with the people beforehand, and then setting up that shot and executing it cleanly. So I think it's a matter of choice, and also a commercial exigency as well.
Great pick, Tracy.
Yeah,
very well done.
Really good trick.
Even though you beat me to it.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Actually, if I'm going to do the generic outro, it should be, wow, that was a really great prick.
You're a really great prick, Tracy.
That's a really great pick. Insert podcaster name here. We look forward to the next one. If you have any feedback, any thoughts you'd like to share on the film that we just discussed, please let us know through our website, completelymachinima.com. Look for the talk button or talk tab. You can send it to us by email or by other methods. We'd love to hear from you, and we, as you have seen in prior episodes, we will share your feedback on the air. So
we will.
Let us know. And thank you guys. This was a great discussion, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, Tracy.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Insert podcast name here.